21st, 2021 Selectmen's Meeting. At this time, the board will vote to adjourn to executive session to discuss complaints against the public officer, returning to the public session at approximately 6 p.m. in the Daniel J. Toomey Room. I'll take a roll call vote. The motion is to adjourn to the executive session to discuss complaints against the public officer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Gardner? Yes. We will adjourn upstairs and return at 6 o'clock. welcome to the December 21st, 2021 Select Board meeting. At this time, I'll ask Select Board Member Bernard to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Oh, please join me.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to lower my mask for this next issue so I can be clear when I speak. The board has just returned from executive session. The executive session was to adjourn to executive session to discuss complaints against a public officer. And I'd like to comment on that now. It had been reported to the Select Board on Monday, 12/13, there was an interaction between homeowners and Select Board member Duggan. The incident resulted in a citizen filing a police report, which was investigated and provided to the board for consideration. The complaint, in an email from the resident and the police report, detailed that Mr. Duggan was seen in front of an address on the street taking multiple pictures of a resident's home. When one of the homeowners was notified by their son, she stood in the front porch and asked why he was taking pictures and who he was. Mr. Duggan refused to identify himself or his reasons for taking pictures and responded that he, in what was described by the resident as a defiant and arrogant manner. According to the homeowner, this activity scared his spouse and they contacted the police. The police responded and a report was filed. A home security camera video corroborated the resident's discussion, and the police recognized from that video and spoke to Mr. Duggan later as part of their investigation. Subsequent to being contacted by the police, Mr. Duggan contacted the homeowner via Facebook Messenger and made personal and disrespectful comments directly to the resident. Tonight, the board met in executive session to discuss the situation. Pursuant to Massachusetts general law relating to executive session, Mr. Duggan was informed of the agenda of the executive session more than 48 hours in advance, and he spoke on his behalf. After deliberations in the executive session, a vote was taken to support the reading of this statement. It was passed by a majority of the board. We, the Select Board of Danvers, are appalled by the actions of Mr. Duggan described by the resident in their email, supporting video, and police report. Our town bylaws and adopted code of conduct would not have envisioned this form of public discourse and currently provide for very limited official action by this board. However, a majority of this board has voted to publicly condemn the actions of Mr. Duggan and decided that he will be relieved as the Select Board representative to previously chair-appointed committees until after the next town election, when the then-voted chair may decide accordingly. We will also direct the town manager to inform all appointed boards and commissions that any participation by Mr. Duggan would be as a private citizen and not a representative of the Select Board. We are the leaders you chose, and as such must demonstrate that leadership, even taking this action against a fellow board member. The majority of the board fully understands that taking this action will bring more unwarranted media exposure to our town. But if we are to move forward as a community on unacceptable behavior, if we are to work towards positive action on the many issues we face, we have to do so from the top down. And we have to face unflinchingly into the mirror. Finally, the Select Board members who voted supporting this statement wish to offer their heartfelt apologies to the specific residents for their experience and this behavior, and assure them that we neither accept nor condone these actions. At this time, I'll open comments to the board, and I will start with Select Board Member Bernard. At your discretion, at your will.
I don't like what happened. I feel everybody makes mistakes. I just want to say, let's try to be kind to one another, folks. You know, there's a lot going on in our town, so I'm sorry for the residents that it happened to, but let's just be kind. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you. In the executive session, I asked Select Board Member Duggan to resign. I'm asking him now in public to resign from this board.
I'll leave that answer to Mr. Duggan's opportunity to speak.
Well, just mere words are mere words. Action is what proves what you feel. I do not condone those actions and those hurtful words that a public official said to a citizen, and I can't sit on this board with Mr. Duggan.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, Select Board Member Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that what the board has said by way of the statement is accurate, correct, and warranted in the circumstances. Thank you. I have nothing further to add.
I offered Mr. Duggan the opportunity to speak last, so I'll make my comments now. Usually I would do it at the end. I too agree that Mr. Duggan's comments, which we will not delve into at this, in this discussion, were personal, hurtful, and Mr. Duggan in executive session has demonstrated that he is not apologetic to the people who made the comments to. I personally feel he should resign as well. The town charter nor our code of conduct allows for this to happen, for us to take this action. He was voted duly by the people of Danvers, and it is up to them. So those are my comments, and I'll leave the last comments to Mr. Duggan as I offered to him.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This statement was constructed prior to the executive session. It mischaracterizes the event as it occurred. I visited this residence, this homeowner's property to take some photographs from the street. And I was challenged by the homeowner that I was not allowed to be taking photographs and that I did not need to identify myself. So I think it's a mischaracterization of what occurred. And, you know, I may have made a statement that was inappropriate at the time. It was out of anger, and I apologize to the board for how that appears in public, that it reflects poorly on the rest of the board. I apologize for that, but I still stand by that I had the rights to be at that location in a public space and take photographs, and I did not need to identify myself. I was just there to take some photographs for a ZBA meeting, and that was my right. And so I feel that I've been subjected to, you know, my name has been disparaged by this action by the board. I feel it's one-sided, that they really weren't interested in listening to my perspective, that they relied on the comments made by the homeowner, and we know that there's always 2 or 3 sides to every story, and I wasn't able to fully provide my side of the story. So I will not resign. I don't think that that what occurred rises to that level. But again, I will publicly apologize to the board that I said something that reflected poorly on them, and that I do regret. That's all I have.
Thank you. We'll move on now to new public business. This is an opportunity for members of the public who have not, oh, I'm sorry. We'll start first with the approval of the minutes of December 7th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any edits to the minutes of December 7th? Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'll now turn to new public business. This is business that is not on the agenda for people that would like to present to the board, questions or comments that they would like us to address. Is there anybody here with new public business? Mr. Bradstreet, welcome.
Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. I looked at what's going to be under the consent calendar. My remark, and I've made it before, about liquor licenses. They're important licenses that businesses apply for to operate their business, which to me, there are certain obligations that go with that. One of them is when they're receive the notification they have to sign for, those documents, that's the owner of the license. And they fail to do so by the date or time that the town specifies, and they rely on an employee to come in after that particular date. So in essence, they're running their operation without an active license because they haven't signed for it when they're supposed to. I take exception to that because in my former job, there used to be people who would come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to sign for a document that should have been signed for prior to that moment. So the business is operating without a license technically. And I take exception to the town not doing something, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody. When I say the town in general, the town should be more forceful or do something different about someone who has a liquor license and doesn't, in my estimation, doesn't do what should be done. And that, again, is you have a liquor license, it comes with certain obligations. Honor those obligations, don't put it off for whatever reason, I'm too busy or whatever the case, or whatever the excuse might be. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, we're getting close to the end of the month. I'd like to think that I honor my obligations, and I'd like to think that a business that has a license issued by the town would honor their obligations in a timely fashion, not after the fact. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And allow me to let you know that this evening, the select board members all signed the liquor licenses. I believe there was 50 of them, and they will be ready. I'll ask the town clerk for clarity to describe the process by which, the next steps in this process, and also to ask if this has been a recurring issue in her recent term as clerk. So if you could describe the process.
Sure. The ABCC requires all license holders to sign their renewal forms in the month of November. All license holders did, in fact, sign their renewal form in the month of November. The board approved those renewals in the first meeting of December. The board signed all the new 2022 licenses this evening. Between now and December 31st, I will package them up and prepare them to be picked up at the police station on New Year's Eve, December 31st, after noontime. So each license holder has to send a representative to the police station on that day to sign for and pick up their liquor license.
Thank you. So what you're saying is they have, in a timely fashion, taken care of their obligation?
I would say to you that most license holders do in fact show up on the 31st of December. In the past, there may have been 1 or 2 that came after the fact. We do reach out to those people and make sure that they do come and pick them up. But we keep track, and everybody does in fact sign for their license.
So what I'm looking at is something that took place in the past isn't taking place now.
I am on top of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there any other new public business not on the agenda for this evening? The board will hear a potential candidate for the Preservation Commission. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're joined tonight by Diane Amato. She filled out a talent pool form expressing an interest in volunteering with the town. I believe she's attended at least one of the Preservation Commission meetings. No, but she has spoken with staff. I believe Aaron Henry has interviewed Diane, and she's here tonight to introduce herself to the board to fill one of the vacant seats on the Preservation Commission.
Welcome. If you could go to the podium, introduce yourself, the board may have questions for you. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us about your interest in serving and some background that might help us, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Diane Amato, and I've been a lifelong resident of Danvers, and I thought it would be nice to, try to help out and give back a little bit and support, however I can. And I was told that there might be an opening on one of the boards. I'm a real estate broker, been a broker for decades, I'll just say. And I appreciate architecture and the buildings that we have, and I'd like to try to preserve whatever we can and help out with, if people have questions, stuff like that.
Thank you. I'll start with Select Board Member Mills. Do you have any comments or questions, sir?
Thank you for your willingness to serve your town.
Welcome.
Select Board Member Duggan.
I also thank you for volunteering. We've had some losses recently, including the train station. So if you're enthusiastic about kind of helping save additional buildings, that would be most appreciative of that. I wish you success, and thanks for volunteering.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard.
Thank you for volunteering, Diane.
And I too want to thank you for willingness to serve as a citizen volunteer. We appreciate it greatly.
You're welcome.
So I'll take a motion to, is this is the preservation?
It's a town manager appointment.
Town manager, okay, so we don't need to vote on this. So thank you very much, welcome, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time, a public hearing will be held on the application of Danvers Donuts, LLC, doing business as Dunkin Donuts, 79 Andover Street, Emily Fitzgerald, manager, for a change of ownership on a common victualler license at that location. Is there someone to speak to that? Welcome.
Hi, my name's Emily Fitzgerald. I'm with Cheever Management Company. We are a Dunkin Donuts franchisee, and we recently took over the ownership of the Dunkin Donuts at 79 Andover Street. I'm here tonight to request the transfer of the common vic license. There will not be any changes to the operation of this business, the hours, the menu. It's simply just a change of hands in the ownership.
Very good. Select Board Member Duggan.
No questions, just wish you success on the new endeavor.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard.
No questions, thank you.
Select Board Member Mills.
Thank you, Emily, for coming tonight. Good luck.
Thank you.
And I have no questions either. Good luck to you in your, in the new business.
Thank you.
At this time, it is a public hearing, so at this time, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I'll entertain a motion on the application as presented.
Move to approve the application as presented.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much and good luck. Public hearing will be held under Chapter 138 of the General Laws on the application of Hardcover Inc., doing business as Hardcover, 15A, Newbury Street, Denise Boggs, for a change of officer directors, LLC managers, and on an all-alcoholic common victular license at that location. Is there someone to represent this? Welcome.
My name is Bill Swanson. I'm the current owner of the Hardcover, have been the owner since 1990. What I just went through the process of was buying out one of my partners, and we're just changing the officers. So other than that, nothing else.
So this is just a change of officers, not on the liquor license? Is that accurate?
There's no changes to the local operation. It's just
Oh,
change
this
of
is a
ownership.
corporate, okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Just for clarity. I got confused.
It's
okay.
the LLC managers, so
Change
it's
of
like
officer,
manager
okay.
director.
Well, on all alcoholic common victuals license, I thought, I wasn't sure. Thank you. Who did I start with last time? Select Board Member Duggan.
I'm all set, thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard.
All set, thank you.
Select Board Member Mills.
You run a great place.
Oh, thank you.
I think your salad bar is the best in Massachusetts.
Excellent. Well, we like to hear that.
Keep up the great work.
And this is just a change of ownership and officers, not a change to the actual liquor license, so we won't go through the normal questions I have. I'm all set. This is a public hearing. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this application? Yes, please. Bradstreet, Mr. Bradstreet.
Again, Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1, and as Mr. Mills has said, we're looking forward to continuation of the good food. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak to this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now on to the motion as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the application of Hardcover Inc., doing business as Hardcover, 15A Newbury Street, Denise Boggs, for a change of officers, directors, LLC managers on all alcoholic common victualler license at that location.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Any questions on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Good luck.
All right.
You as well. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Let's see, where are we? Okay.
I don't know what I did with my copy, though. Did you come pick it up?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna-
Can I have it? Can I have it? Yeah. Thank you.
Public hearing will be held under Chapter 138 of the General Laws on the application of the Polish, Russian, Lithuanian American Citizens Club, 12 Cheever Street, Charles Romeo, manager, for a change of manager, all alcoholic club license at that location. Is there someone here to speak to that? Thank you. And before you speak, for full disclosure, though we have it on file, just for the public to know, I am a member of the Polish club. However, my decisions are made independently. I have no financial relationship to the club other than being, I'm a member, a social member. And I believe there's another member. Thank you. We have two other members, and I presume you feel the same way. You don't have to recuse
Yeah,
yourself.
but I'm an ethnic member, not just a social
Oh,
member.
okay. Ooh. Then you get 1.1 vote tonight. All right. So that's a disclosure that there's no conflict of interest on hearing your application and deciding on it. Thank you. Please present your application.
Hi, my name is Peter Usalis. I'm the president of the Polish Club, and Charlie Romeos is here with me to petition the board to approve the change of managers at the Polish Club on our liquor license.
Okay. And the clerk has informed us that the application is complete in her cover letter. I will start with Select Board Member Bernard.
All set.
Select Board Member Mills.
You do a great job down there, Peter. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank
Select
you.
Board Member Duggan.
Thank you. So just want to point out, I think Mr. Romeos was a manager previously at that location, and he's volunteered to take over again. So I wish you the best. The club is looking forward to you. They need you, and the club is in your hands. I wish you success.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a standard set of questions I asked every applicant. I happen to know Charlie. I have for many, many years. But for clarity and for the public's understanding, I see that by your application, you plan on being there 40-plus hours a week. Great. I understand that you are alcohol service certified.
I am.
Great. And I know that from this document and personal knowledge that you have vast experience as a bar manager and a bartender in the past and are well-versed in liquor service. So I have no other questions. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this application? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And now I'll accept a motion to accept the application as presented.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any other comments from the board?
No, great
Hearing,
club. Nice
hearing, yep, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 7, the board will consider a vote to establish a select board named CPA committee. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board received materials at the last meeting, mostly related to the 2016 effort to adopt the Community Preservation Act in Danvers. With your packets tonight, you received 2 additional documents. The first is a cover memorandum that was prepared, which updates some of the tables from 2016 and includes a list of potential candidates for the committee. And the second is a guide that Kathy Ellsworth, the town clerk, found from the Secretary of the Commonwealth that does a very good job of explaining how communities go about adopting the Community Preservation Act. So I think, you know, the main purpose of the agenda item tonight is the board has discussed at a number of meetings an interest in pursuing this. The next step would be to formalize that support in the form of appointing a subcommittee to carry the effort forward toward potential approval. And I'd be happy to take any questions. If you turn to the second page of the cover memo, you will see the list of names. I can read those out loud for those who don't have a sheet in front of them. As I note in the memo, I have spoken to each of these individuals, and each has expressed an interest to serve. One of them is here tonight, Dan Gagnon. But Mike Powers, who served on the committee last time, Ellen Graham, who also served, or was, if not on, was at all of the meetings and fully engaged last time. Carla King, who serves on the Affordable Housing Trust, I believe.
Danvers Housing. Yeah.
And Affordable Housing Trust.
And both roles. Dan is here tonight, very involved with historic preservation in the town. Mark Jones not here tonight, but very engaged with open space and recreation. Ted Blake from the Finance Committee has expressed an interest in serving. There's a seat for a Select Board appointee, and at the staff level, our Assistant Recreation Director, Nick Campion, along with our Chief Assessor, John LaBelle, have expressed willingness to support this group in their work. And above, I listed some of the key questions that this group would have to be charged with exploring on behalf of the board. But I'll stop there, and I'd be happy to take any questions, preliminary questions that you may have at this time.
Select Board Member Mills.
I think that the whole concept is great. I have confidence in our state government because it does a great job doing a lot of things, but I always wonder how much money actually will come back to the town as a proportionate share of the pot. And that's the thing that always concerns me, because we've been to this concept before. And I think that there was others who shared my concern that the, you know, it's not a one-for-one match. Maybe Steve can explain it a little, well, that's my concern. But otherwise, I think it's a great, it is a good thing. It's just that the taxpayers are going to say, well, okay, we put up $1, and what do we get out of this grand formula from the state? Well, we're not sure. So that's my concern, that we're not sure.
So I can offer a comment in terms of where we were in 2016 and what's happened since then. I believe at present there are roughly 190 communities that have opted into the CPA across the Commonwealth. That number, as best I can tell, has been relatively plateaued. The program's been around for a while. I think the program saw steady increases in terms of adoption, and it has leveled off. When the town looked at this last time, the reimbursement rate that you're referencing was at about its lowest point since the program had been adopted. As more communities came on, the state funding for the program is generated by the Registry of Deeds through transactions at the registry. Those are collected across the state, including here in Danvers, and then a portion of them are allocated to member CPA communities based on their local surcharge. Since 2016, and it's in the materials, and I'm going to say it wrong. It was either 2018 or 19 that the legislature passed some legislation updating the fee schedules at the registry, and the reimbursement rate in the most recent year, which closed just this past November, was just a little less than 40%. So that's no indication of what the future may hold as the housing markets theoretically has to slow down at some point. We may see that the revenue coming in plateau, but the fees were adjusted, and if a lot of communities don't join, you could expect that the number would probably fluctuate but not drop the way that it did in the past. But that's subject to a lot of variables outside of our control.
Steve, I don't know if you could be, for me, a little bit clearer. So the town votes to participate, and the town puts $10 into the fund. What does the state put into the fund, and what does Danvers get out of the fund?
So on the first page of the memorandum that went out, if you look at the second of the two tables, the CPA committee in 2016 recommended a 1.5% surcharge on property taxes. In the above table, you will see that for the average single-family home in Danvers, which is valued at just under $550,000, excuse me, that would be about an $85 surcharge on their property tax. The cumulative total of those, based on current valuations, would be just over $1 million in local CPA funding. Excuse me. And using the matching rate from a month ago, the state contribution would be around $424,000. So for every in your analogy, for every $10 that is raised locally, the state contributes $4 to that.
And how does that play out to what does Danvers get back?
It is subject to available funding from year to year.
Danvers puts in this and they get this.
But the reimbursement rate is based on what is raised locally.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Duggan.
Thank you. So we talked previously about which ballot this would appear on, either a May ballot at the local election or on a November ballot. If you recall, the last go at this was in November of 2016 was probably the worst time to ever put this on a ballot because a number of angry people showed up for that election. So is this committee going to choose which ballot this appears on?
I think the first step this committee would have to take is a recommendation back to this board in terms of what they believe would be sensible. I think it's a combination of timing. There's what's noted in the materials tonight. Either path requires certain. You have to back into due dates for whether it's turning in signatures or preparing for either a special or annual town meeting. So. If the committee is formed tonight, we would be at the staff level helping them coordinate a meeting in early January to start discussing these questions with the expectation that they would come back to this board pretty early on with some thoughts on that very question. Yeah. Unless, I mean, this board has the latitude to offer that guidance to the committee as well, depending on how you view it.
So if it was on the May ballot, that would require a collection of signatures, more than 1,000, I think. So, and there's a small window in which to obtain those.
I believe it's 42 days. So it would be 7 weeks working back, 6 weeks working backwards. So it would be mid-March, early March would be the deadline to submit signatures in that scenario.
That's much more difficult because last time we went through the warrant process, I believe, and we're able to get approval to get it onto the November ballot. Just one other question. Did we have a committee last time in 2016 that kind of spearheaded the effort? It seemed to my recollection it was more of a citizen kind of a groundswell of support. And I think that sort of fell apart at the end, especially in terms of the educating the voter base to explain to them the importance of this. You know, the opposition just said it's just another tax, and so that was a difficult hurdle to get over. I think if the voters understood the value of this going forward in terms of you know, the use of the money towards open space, affordable housing, and that type of thing, I think it would be more, they'd be more receptive. So I know many of the names on this list, and so I think you've put together quite a strong committee here. That's all.
And if I could answer part of it, in 2016, the charge of the committee was slightly different than what's proposed here. At that point, the board was looking for a recommendation as to whether or not to pursue the CPA. The feedback based on our previous discussions is that this board is interested in pursuing the question. And so in talking to the members on this sheet, they understand that the role may go past a potential town meeting, for example. So the committee last time, their charge kind of ended at town meeting, and I think what you're describing is that period after town meeting before the election. What's written here is that this group would assist in preparing materials as they move toward an eventual vote, because in any scenario, this results in a vote on a ballot.
Good. Thank you for that information. That's all. I'm all set.
Select Board Member Bernard?
All the questions I was going to ask got answered, but I think it's a great group of people, Steve, that offered to help out. And, you know, what we say again, it's a smart growth tool that help communities preserve open space, historic sites, create affordable housing, which is what we need, and develop outdoor recreation facilities. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I supported this. The town manager shared the list with me prior to tonight. We do have the opportunity to add someone at a select board, either a liaison from the board or someone else we wish to appoint. I'd ask the board to think on that. And I open it up to citizens, as we did at the last meeting. If there's someone interested, please contact the town manager for consideration, and then we'll talk about that. I don't want to add any constraints to the going into the project, so I don't want any presumption of the board directing which election this is going to be in. I want the committee to be able to freely recommend whatever they think might be the better course of action or options for the board to consider. So I don't want to offer the any kind of constraints at this point, and would like to go forward with this.
I would note, in terms of the board, both Dan and Matt have expressed interest in this.
Thank you.
In this role.
If that's the case, then I think I'd ask Dan to serve. This is a vote to establish a Select Board-named CPA Committee. I'll entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The next order of business, the town will adopt, the board will vote to adopt a budget policy for fiscal year 2023. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have, I believe you received a copy of a document that was circulated at least a month ago. It has subsequently been reviewed and approved as to form by the school committee. The approval by the library trustees, I do not believe, to the best of my knowledge, has happened yet, but I think that the board, assuming they're comfortable with this, should feel confident approving it, subject to any feedback that may or may not be provided by the library. Just for the record, what we discussed at our first discussion on this, the only thing that's new here, and this is based on, one of our finance director's goals when we hired him was to get our budget document prepared to be considered for the GFOA Budget Award. We've received the award for financial reporting for our annual audit for many years. Getting the award for budget presentation, and they look for transparency, clarity, ease of and readability. One of the things they look for are annual goals. So we've had a lot of long-standing goals, and what you see for fiscal year 23 is an attempt to kind of introduce that concept. These are fairly straightforward. These are topics that we've been looking to address for a couple of years. COVID has delayed some of them. But I would be looking for feedback, a question from the board, and ultimately approval of this so that we can add it to the budget document. And I would note the budget hearings are well underway. We've been meeting with departments and going over their preliminary requests for the year. It's very early on the revenue side, but we're working to try to lock in pension projections and healthcare and the like.
Thank you. And we have had this for a little over a month for our review. I would ask the will of the board. Do you want to go ahead and approve this evening, or do you want to have one last stab at the final language and come back in January?
Do you think we should have Dan be back for this?
I'm not sure when
Okay.
Mr. Bennett will return. I don't want to delay based on that. I would be supportive of accepting it now, but I'll look to the board's direction.
I agree, Gardner. I'm comfortable that actually not only should it be accepted, but applause once again to the manager and his team for putting together a really, really great program. Thank you.
So to follow appropriate protocol, should I accept that as a motion to move forward, Mr. Mills?
Yes, of course, that's what I meant.
Thank you. And is there a second? I'll make the second for this, for discussion. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Duggan.
Thank you. I don't see the American Rescue Plan Act monies that were given to the schools. Is that not something that we would add to this document?
I don't think,
So the ARPA money that we received for the general budget was approximately 8 million spread over 2 fiscal years.
correct.
But there's also additional monies that the school was awarded to the school to deal with COVID-related expenses, and then some other, actually to add staff, I believe. So is these budget goals kind of?
I think, so I would say part of the school funding is in the form, it's called ESSER, and if you quiz me on the acronym, I'll fail to pass that quiz. This, the reference ARPA to ARPA in this particular goal is couched in the IT, the changes that have been made to IT. The ARPA spending plan will be provided in full in the budget document, and I haven't seen the draft school budget yet, but I suspect there will certainly be materials presented related to those one-time revenues as well. But this is really focused in on the ARPA spending related to IT and some of the costs that are associated with that. But I'll take that back to the budget discussion.
So I think it's just, it's good policy to have it rather than just long-term goals that can sometimes seem abstract, to actually bring some short-term, real-life examples to bear, so we're all kind of on the same page. So, looks good. I'm all set, thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard?
Nope, I'm all set, looks good.
All right, and I too am all set. I think that this is primarily focused on budget policy, not management of one-time funds. It's more of a policy of for our normal conditions of the budget. I'm comfortable with this, and I'm willing to move forward. So there's a motion made to accept this as presented. We've heard comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Very good. The town manager will report to the board on various items of interest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of brief updates tonight. First, we offered drive-through COVID testing this afternoon at the high school. We have 3 more sessions planned for the morning of the 23rd, the afternoon of the 28th, and the morning of the 30th. And I got some, I want to make a comment both for those who may be listening and also for this board. There are staff volunteering to work that clinic who are not being paid, and the lines were very long at this clinic. It's being offered for free. Employees are there on their own time, and they were subjected to some really heinous abuse verbally from some of the people in line to get tested, including from a state police officer. who had comments for the staff who were there. The chief of police had to go down and help. I made it very clear to staff, we're going to cancel the next 3 if that type of behavior continues. It's very frustrating. It's a holiday season. Cases are on the rise. We wanted to make sure that we could offer this to residents who may be trying to travel, who waited to the last minute and needed to get a test. I think it's an important service that's being provided, but it was very disheartening this afternoon to be getting feedback from staff that was happening. A small minority, I want to emphasize that, but the fact that people would show up at a free clinic and be verbally abusing the volunteers who were there to try to help them is very discouraging. Switching gears slightly, at our last meeting, I reported to the board that the school department had partnered with the Lappin Foundation out of Salem to offer an intergenerational Holocaust symposium in January and February. It was designed for 50 people, 25 high school students and 25 community leaders. I'm pleased to report that the slots filled up almost instantly. I've registered, and I know that I know a number of other people who eagerly registered as well to participate in that. And I wanted to briefly comment on we put out a statement earlier this week related to an incident that was discovered on a bleacher at one of our softball fields on Pickering Street. And the statement generated some really thoughtful comments and feedback from community members who I know and I respect, who read into the statement that the town was going to stop reporting out on incidents like the ones that we've unfortunately been dealing with for the last few months in Danvers. I talked today to the chair, working with the chair of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. We'd like to put out a clarifying statement at some point this week to try to explain what we are and are not trying to do. We are fully committed to doing this work. We will continue to report any and all incidents that occur. What we're looking at is trying to modify the way that we do that to try to strike a balance so that we can move forward and start to do some of the work that needs to be done, while at the same time handling these issues with the delicacy and urgency that they require. And so I just wanted to, I'm not ready to share that. I sent a copy of that to Dee this evening. I'll probably share a copy tomorrow morning with the chair for some feedback. We want to try to recalibrate that and make sure that people understand exactly what it is that we're trying to do and not do in moving forward. Because it is important. We agree completely with the concerns we've heard that it is important to catalog, document, and communicate on all of these things. We just need to be sensitive in the way that we do it. So I wanted to share that, and I'd be happy to take questions, but those are the 3 items that I wanted to update the board on tonight.
And I'll just add a little bit to that. There was no intent to remove any transparency about what goes on in this town. As soon as we hear things, we want to react to it. I think the intent and still the main thrust of the message is that there's no one who thinks that our message has changed from the position of the town and administration and leaders, that these issues are abhorrent, that we do not condone them, that we condemn them outright. It's not part of our community, we don't like it. The concern is in part that there are copycat incidents going on, that people who may be doing these things are emboldened by the publicity that it is received, and that a repetitive message about how much we condemn this, how much we abhor it, how much we fight against it, how much we're in objection to it, 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 statements in a row dilutes the message when it's an important message. And it's the same reason we are very reluctant to use 911 for our reverse 911 system for providing anything but emergency messages. We want people to react when an emergency message comes through. We want them to know it's an emergency, understand it, and not dilute that message with other statements. And in this case, we are soundly behind the fact that these things are condemned by this board, by this committee, by the town administration. And the repetitive nature of that same letter sometimes dilutes the message that we're trying to get across. We are committed to each of these incidents and looking in, investigating each of these incidents. And I know that the town manager is preparing a method of communicating and publicizing is probably the wrong word, but opening and publicly communicating when these incidents occur without, in some cases, grandizing the incident in a manner that may give others the idea that they can get a reaction. It's a delicate balance, and I appreciate that the town manager has heard from community leaders, including myself and Dee and others, about the unintended response or unintended manner in which it was interpreted. It is not to say we're in any way, shape, or form stepping away from our obligations or stepping away from the fact that this is horrendous actions that we need to address as a community. I look forward to seeing the follow-up communication for clarity and the steps we will be taking that will be outlined in that document. So, are there any other questions on the town manager's report this evening? If not, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the acceptance of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to accept?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the consent calendar? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'll move to the correspondence, select board, new business, previous new public business updates, and select board closing comments. I'll start with select board member Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve and the employees, thank you for what you do. That kind of behavior is terrible. The town's trying to do some good things here, people, so let's try to respect one another. Also, with regards to the COVID, just some information. If anybody is looking for a booster shot, like a walk-in booster shot, I recently went to North Shore Community College, and you can walk in. You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to pre-register for the citizens that have a hard time going on the computer, and if you want to get one quickly, just go in. It was a good experience. They had it really set up well. Other than that, I just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for everything that, everybody does, all these committees, the select board, town manager, the clerk, and all the employees. Thank you.
Select board member Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items. Our last meeting, I had commented upon a publication by the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, and I had apologized to the board because I meant to bring copies to everybody on the bench here, but also to be able to hold it up and say, wow, this Human Rights and Inclusion Committee is doing a superb job, totally invested in the health, emotional, social health of this community, and with a lot of effort with the town manager and other parts of our town to address our recent agonies on bigotry and prejudice. So it's available online, and if somebody doesn't know how to get online, because some people my age don't know how to get online, call to the town hall, to community and development, or even to the manager's office. We'll end up with instructions for that. It's a great committee, does great work, and this is just a quarterly report. And wow, please see what is going on. The second thing I just wanted to mention is that committee I think it was last Thursday night, held a regular meeting in this room, but included kind of a forum on the committee's work and efforts to counteract the homophobia, racism, sexism stuff that has generated so much public attention in the last 6 weeks. It was a magnificent come together here in this room. I think the meeting is available on our website if anybody wants to plug in. Dee, the chairman of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, is a real gift to the town. And I'm so proud to be our select board liaison to that committee. Steve mentioned the partnership with the Lappin Foundation, and I signed up the day that it was announced, and I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. on the week that it was opened. I think it was in 1993, and because I have Polish grandparents on my mother's side who made it out before the horrendous stuff of Auschwitz and all, I've always paid attention to what is going on, and I'm really distressed that a lot of younger people have no clue of what the Holocaust meant, and I think it's really important. And once again, thank you for doing all this. I also wanted to mention my own concern that the Danvers school superintendent and the school committee and the chairman of the school committee be treated rationally and justly with respect to all of this stuff. I have read everything that has been published in the local newspapers and Boston newspapers with respect to our very uncomfortable stuff going on, whether it's in a locker room or elsewhere. And I have detected an attitude among many people that the superintendent and the school committee are responsible for this. I don't know how to run a school. I've never been on the school committee. I did go to Danvers Public Schools and the Tapley School, which is now a senior center, for 6 of the most glorious, wonderful years of my life, of Danvers education, of teachers who went to the Salem Normal School for 3 years of teacher training, and they were magnificent. They taught us please and thank you and respect for everybody, and it was really a great experience. That's my best experience of how to run a school. But I know this, I say it all, everybody says, don't tell everybody again how old you are, so I won't. But I've been a lawyer 52 years and I'm in the justice business. And I'm still in the justice business. And to blame the school superintendent and the school committee and to hold them responsible for 400 years of racism in this country that is still espoused by multiple members of the Congress, both the House and the Senate, that was espoused by a presidential candidate over the course of 4 years, that is part of the blood and guts of a lot of people who still live in the South and wish that Barack Obama had been assassinated. That racism is everywhere, and we have a healthy dose, an unhealthy dose of it in Danvers. I don't think it's fair and just to hold the school superintendent in any way responsible for curing that. The same thing with homophobia. I'm kind of a specialist on that, having grown up gay and hidden and closeted in Danvers, and I'm now 79, and I finally put a rainbow flag on my house only 2 years ago when I was 77. There's plenty of homophobia to go around. I watch all of the news every day about what's happening to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning people, including youngsters in this country. They're being killed, humiliated. It still goes on. And I always say to people who make a comment about, negative comment about gay people, I said, please be careful. Understand that words are very powerful. And if you want to hate me, please be my guest. But don't do it because someone else told you to, or because it was something that you learned or were taught, or it's just, make your own decision before you are going to do anything sexist, racist, homophobic, rather than going with the crowd. Please, make your own decision. Is that the kind of a person you want to be? And I just want to say, I don't know how to run a school, but I know how to run a court, and I know a lot about justice, and it's not fair and rational to put all of the responsibility of this on the superintendent and the school committee. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I respect very much the statement on the most recent graffiti thing, because I truly, from watching it, it's not my opinion, it's my life experience of watching society and culture. There is such a thing as copycat. We may have 1 or 2 or 3 students in Danvers who are so aching for validation from their families, from whatever, that they will do these things and then witness, boy, look at the publicity I can finally be paid attention to, even if it's anonymous, if I do this. So again, it's another tightrope that has to be watched by the administrators, by our management, by the Human Rights Commission, by the school people. And no matter what is done, lots of people will say it's wrong, lots of people will say it's right, and lots of people are too busy paying their mortgages and trying to figure out how to make the grocery bill. Just to say, thank you to Gardner for all of the input he does into these matters, and to Steve, and to Dee, the chair of our Human Rights Commission, and to our school people who truly took a lot of unnecessary, unfair abuse as this stuff was processed. Because, finally, human nature, we want to find a scapegoat in order to deal with that horrendous situation. Let's find out, let's figure out who can we blame and squash them. Well, that's human nature, and that happens. But I don't think it should be our school committee and the superintendent. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Duggan?
It's a tough act to follow. There are powerful comments from my fellow Select Board member. I just wanted to kind of just reaffirm what Ms. Bernard had mentioned about the booster shots up at the North Shore Community College. You can just walk right in. I did that last week. If you go online, they don't show any available, but when I went there in person, it just took less than a half an hour. And other than that, just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a safe, Merry and safe Christmas, and Happy New Year. So,
Thank you. I too want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, a Happy Kwanzaa, whatever celebration you do or do not partake in. Enjoy your family at this time. Enjoy some peace and reflection. And I will conclude with the comments Mr. Bennett would normally make, which is if you see a vet, thank a vet. And that is all for this evening. Good night, Danvers.